Welcome, everyone, to the Empowered Embodiment Revolution, where women leaders reveal how to liberate yourself from body battles so you can follow your heart, own your power, and shine in the world. I'm Darlene Downing. I am your host for this event, and I am absolutely thrilled to be here with you today. So I'm so excited to introduce to you someone that recently came into my world who is an amazing being, Dina Proctor. And I'd love to share with you what she's up to in the world, a little bit of her story or her bio. So Dina is a life and business coach, inspirational speaker, and best-selling author of Madly Chasing Peace: How I Went from Hell to Happy in 9 minutes a day. After hitting emotional rock bottom, she quite unintentionally created a process called 3x3 meditation, 3 minutes, 3 times a day, that enabled her to transform every aspect of her life, from weight loss and banishing addictive cravings to reconstructing relationships. This simple and yet incredibly effective method has gained the support of Jack Canfield and Dr. Bruce Lipton, and is now helping thousands of others around the world improve their lives. So welcome, Dina. I am so thrilled that you're here today to have this conversation with me.
I'm excited too, Darlene. Thank you for the invitation and just the presence and space to share this with you. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for saying yes. So, you know what I would love to start the conversation off with, since this is the Empowered Embodiment Revolution, how do you define empowered embodiment? What's your point of view on that?
I love that title, the empowered embodiment, and especially because we're talking about not just our physical beings and our physical bodies, but also the presence that we hold. And so empowerment, the word power, I like the word empowered, because power could be seen as kind of aggressive or taking advantage of, that sort of thing, but empowered to me means that I'm grounded, connected, and centered to that highest source of power, peace, and wisdom inside of myself. And when I kind of get out of my own way and make that the priority as I make decisions, as I, everything from who to interact with, what to create, what foods to eat, when to exercise, all of those decisions that I need to make on a daily basis, when I connect to that inner source of power, peace, and wisdom, that's when I'm truly empowered. And when I'm empowered and coming from that place of true, to use the word embodied, like really harnessing and expressing from that sense, I am of best service to those people around me. So that's what it means to me when I thought of and when I heard the title and the theme of the summit that you're creating.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Getting to that true power that's within is the key, really, Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, so I know a little bit about your body story, and so what was your biggest body battle that you struggled with? And because I really want women to know that they're not alone if they are going through battles in whatever capacity, that it's happening to a lot of us. And so if you could just share what your story has been with your body, how you overcame that, I would love to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right, because it's easy to see these people who are already successful and, kind of lust after what they've created for themselves, but not be able to identify, like, how can that help me? That person is so different from who I am or where I am. But my story, I'll share that with you. My biggest body struggles that I had were with food and alcohol addictions. So I struggled with that kind of my whole life. Like, food has always been a self-soother for me, has always been something that's been emotional for me, eating and soothing myself that way. And I was heavily addicted to alcohol for probably 2 or 3 years. And so I struggled with the physical addiction with that, and also the low self-esteem, the emptiness inside, clinical depression that comes with having an addiction like that. And the way that I navigated, I went through an addiction recovery program. I spent an entire year really embodying those principles and living from that space and having those breakthroughs. So that saved my life. But what I developed and what really underlied all of the breakthroughs that I was having in addiction recovery and with food issues and weight loss, which, we'll get to all those details, is this meditation method that I call 3x3, 3 minutes, 3 times a day of a focused, calm space of visualization and openness to that inner place of power, peace, and wisdom to give me the guidance to be able to eat from what the cells of my body are calling from, rather than eating because of these cravings that are just running me. At one point, after I had quit drinking so much, I started eating so much, and I was just a junk food. I went up 2 sizes in a couple of months. Food just became the replacement addiction for me. If it had oatmeal in the title, I was eating it for breakfast. Oatmeal cookies, and just, any kind of junk food I could get my hands on. I loved the sweet and I loved the salty, and that's what I made. That was all I ate all day long for months and months and months. And, that was coming off of that heavy addiction. But even prior, I had never really had a healthy relationship with food or a healthy image of my body. But the 3x3 meditation, those focused breaks where I would connect inward, changed all of that and literally rewired the way that I was thinking about what I was doing and what I was eating. So that was the key to my entire transformation.
I love that. And what I picked up when you were sharing is it got you quiet to connect to the wisdom that your body has within, and instead of that cycle of emotional spiraling and mental spiraling that was driving what was creating the angst in your body.
Yeah, exactly right. And I learned this is an important point too. Even if people listening in aren't technically having addiction, but are just having more of food issues, or they know that they're eating emotionally, but they don't know how to break that cycle, or they have sugar cravings and they're not sure how to tame those. The important thing to remember when we're kind of eating for not hunger reasons, when we're eating for more emotional or self-soothing reasons, is that the addiction or the food or the alcohol or the substance isn't the problem in itself. It's the solution. So the problem is that we've got something going on the inside that's keeping us restless, discontent with our life. We're feeling annoyable, irritable, those sorts of things. When we're able to get inside and connect to that higher wisdom and break through with whatever emotional issues we're having, we find that the cravings lose their power over us. We no longer have to go to that solution because we don't have the problem anymore. And so that's the primary work that needs to be done, is more emotional, mental, and it's kind of spiritual work. And then the physical is a reflection of that. So when that work is done on the inside, the outside comes to reflect and match it.
Yeah, I love that. We have this tendency to always be looking outside for what's going to fix us, right? And it's this thing or it's that thing, and it'll never ultimately be what we're really looking for at the core. It's coming into here so that then we can make the choices outside that are going to support whatever we're wanting to create, right?
Yep, exactly right.
Well, so this theme is around following your heart, owning your power, shining in the world. So as you've transformed your body relationship, how is that reflected to you, following your heart and really just, living your best life?
I think it's kind of key to whatever we want to create in our lives, because if we're not comfortable in our own skin, that's reflected in everything that happens. And so if we're not happy with our body or with our posture or with our food choices or whatever, we tend to shy away from opportunities we might otherwise say yes to if we didn't have those issues. So coming to terms with being comfortable within our own skin and having our body improve its wellness, and changing our thought patterns and the solutions that aren't working for us in terms of food choices and that sort of thing, that enables us to feel comfortable in our own skin, confident within our own being, and it's just kind of a non-issue. So if we're invited to make a presentation or have an opportunity for an interview, if we're self-conscious about the way that we look or we feel insecure in our own body, we're going to decline those opportunities when really they're the best thing for us to be able to share ourselves and get our message out there. So this is almost like an issue that kind of needs to be cleaned up, and it will make everything else in our lives better. Once you're comfortable in your own being and in your own skin, you can go from there and create anything that you want for yourself in your life.
I so agree. I so agree. And yeah, I would love to hear more, because you talked about it before, what it was that brought you to this place where you're now feeling at ease in your body. You've healed the addictions with alcohol and food, and you called it the 3x3 meditation, right?
Mm-hmm.
You share with us a little bit more about how that came to be and a little bit more about that process. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I'll share with you how I created it, because it's kind of an interesting story. And then also I'll share how we can get into how people can bring this into their lives with real concrete steps moving forward if they want to take it home with them. So I'm happy to talk about both. But just to start with the kind of background story, so it was at the end of 2008 when I hit my personal rock bottom. The couple of years previous to that was when my alcohol addiction was at its worst. I was drinking around the clock. I had constant alcohol in my bloodstream for those couple of years. I was drinking at work, and who I became when I was drinking, I would wake up in the morning and not even be able to look at myself in the mirror. I couldn't live with who I was becoming. I was selling out. I was, like on my morals is what I mean. Like I was just losing all just capability to recognize morality at all. Like I was waking up next to guys that I had just met. I was stealing money. I don't even know why. It's not like I was poor. It was just this was my way of acting out, because I was so desperate and clinically depressed and horrifically addicted inside of myself. And I was lying to my family. Just everything with who I was becoming. I reached a place where I couldn't live with who I was becoming anymore, and I chose a date to take my own life. That was my rock bottom, and that was towards the end of 2008. Now, coming out of that, I ended up in an addiction recovery program, and I was probably the most classic case of denial that you could ever imagine. Like I had no idea that I belonged in those rooms, that I was one of them. But eventually I came around. I spent probably 3 months going to meetings at the addiction recovery program without committing to it, without wanting to quit drinking. But when I decided that I would commit to this, and I wanted to see what this program could give me, I chose a mentor to lead me through the steps in the program. And her first instruction to me was to learn to meditate. And I remember when she told me that, I looked at her like, what the heck is meditation going to do? Like, just kind of sitting there in this floaty, wistful way, and that's going to solve all my problems? Are you kidding me? That was my impression of it. And, she was really good with me, Darlene. She was very tough love. And she just said, your solutions haven't worked so far, so why don't you try this? She had a really good point. It was something I hadn't tried before. So her specific instruction to me was to sit still every morning for 20 minutes and focus on my breathing. So, of course, that didn't seem terribly practical to me, but what could it hurt, right? So I said, fine, I'll try it, whatever. That was my attitude. So the first few mornings, I set a timer like she told me to, I sat like she told me to, and I intended to sit and focus on my breathing for 20 minutes. But what happened, because I was in physical withdrawal from alcohol and my negative thoughts were still really ravenous, and when I would sit still, it was intolerable for me to sit for longer than about 3 minutes. My body just started shaking. I started sweating uncontrollably, and just those negative thoughts. Yeah. So at about the 3-minute mark, it was just, I had to just get up and move around. I could not physically tolerate sitting still for longer than that. But later on in the day, it would nag at me like, the only thing she told me to do is sit for 20 minutes. I can't even do that. So I said, you know what, let me see if I can sit for a few more minutes. And so I would sit and try and sweat and shake and freak out, and after 3 minutes I would have to get up again. But I did these little 3-minute breaks several times a day so that I could, at the end of the day, call her and told her that I did 20 minutes total. That was how. But what was it? I know. Yeah, like I did my homework assignment. But what was amazing about that, and what the learning from that was that I'm kind of glad that, in hindsight, that I wasn't capable of following her instructions, because that 3-minute here, 3-minute there thing ended up being more effective for me personally than if I had been able to sit for 20 whole minutes. Because for me, it became a place to tap into, a place of peace to touch into. Not at the beginning. In the beginning, I was a disaster crazy person. But after, several weeks of doing that, I began having experiences in what I can only call a state of higher consciousness. Just no mind chatter, that pure grounded place of bliss. I was kind of like tethered to and outside of my body. And when I was in those higher consciousness states, it was really obvious to me a couple things. One is that there's no such thing as time. And I know that sounds impractical and weird.
No, I get it.
Yeah, in the ultimate perspective, there's no such thing as time. The second thing that was really obvious to me was that anything I wanted to create in my external world, whether it was a healing in my body, an improved relationship, a better financial situation, absolutely everything in my external world is a mirror of what's going on internally. So any work that needed to be done only needed to be done in here and then would be reflected outside. And you can see that in relationships. Like, I dated the same guy in different bodies for years.
Love that.
Yeah, so I was moving around and changing men and changing cities and changing jobs, but I was taking myself with me. And these people were just a mirror of what was going on inside of myself. So I kept recreating the same experiences and not understanding how that was happening. Not until I got that inside right did the outside come into place. And just to kind of give a little scientific kind of bolstering to support this little 3x3 thing, the 3 minutes 3 times a day, I interviewed, when I wrote my book, because when you say 9 minutes a day, it kind of sounds like 4-minute abs. It's like, it has a little bit of a, is that even possible? It sounds too good to be true, cheesy, salesy thing. So I decided I wanted to interview, and that I chose to interview Dr. Bruce Lipton, who wrote a book called The Biology of Belief. Isn't he amazing? He's amazing. Yeah, and when I interviewed him, I told him, I said, listen, I've been able to heal from addiction. When I gained weight, I used visualization within my 3x3, and I lost 7 of the pounds I had gained within 10 days. I used visualization to lower my cholesterol by 50 points. I've transformed my relationships. I have a completely healed relationship with alcohol. Like, how is it possible that this is happening for me when all I'm doing is 3 minutes 3 times a day? And he laughed when I asked him that question, and he said, you know what, that is probably one of the most effective things you could possibly do, because your subconscious tape and those old thought patterns that are driving us to our self-soothing or addictive or compulsive behaviors, I'm interrupting and cutting that subconscious tape constantly and consistently throughout the day. So I'm rewiring the neural pathways in my brain. I am literally training myself to think differently and to have a different mindset about what I'm creating. And that, in turn, when we rewire our brain, that's the base work that needs to be done. Then our brain programs the body, programs the food cravings, so it all starts there. But that's how and why it was created, and kind of like why it's effective, why it works.
It's brilliant, and I so love that you took something that was not working for you and you tweaked it and just kept, like, small steps, and then the brilliance of that is, I feel like, wow, how much even more potent is that? It's that continuous going back to and interrupting, like you said, and rewiring, as opposed to forcing yourself to sit there for 20 minutes. And you worked with yourself. You leaned into it, instead of, I've just got to do this 20 minutes, Wow.
Yeah.
How cool that you talked to Bruce Lipton, too. I would love to have a conversation with him.
He's amazing. Yeah. What a fantastic, wise, beautiful soul. He's amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, now how does the emotions tie into all of this with doing the 3x3? Like, did you see not only the mental shift, but your emotional set point, your vibration changing as well?
Oh, yeah, this is a great question because the emotions, when we think about rewiring the way that we think or letting go of negative thoughts, it feels like, oh my gosh, I have to monitor my thinking. I have to be aware of all these thoughts so I can choose the ones to hold on to and choose the ones to release. Well, that will kind of be, that's almost a crazy way, like 60 or 70,000 thoughts a day, depending on which expert you ask. You know, there are tens of thousands of thoughts in our mind every single day, and most of them are repeats and negative thoughts that we thought yesterday and the day before and the year before and 10 years before, you know, that sort of thing. So the way that I distinguish it for myself is using my emotion, because we have negative emotions. Anything on the scale from, you know, mild disappointment all the way to like suicidal depression is a negative emotion. And those emotions, we always feel our emotions in the body. I mean, we can feel them in one of two ways. So the negative emotions, anywhere along that continuum from mild disappointment or frustration all the way to suicidal depression, body. It feels like we're constricted, contracted, you know, that sort of tense, tight, uptight, shoulders hunched, you know, belly not feeling well, those sorts of things, constriction. Now, when we're feeling positive emotion, anything from like mild hope all the way to like deeply grounded, joyful bliss, all of those feel expanded. You know, so that's how I monitor the way that I'm thinking about something, because I will notice it first in the body before I'll be able to catch the thought. So as I'm going throughout my day, if I have an interaction with, you know, somebody or get news I wasn't expecting or that disappoints me, or if something unexpected happens that isn't good, I'll notice in my body that I suddenly feel like deflated or tense or constricted, contracted, and I'll just catch it and I'll realize it's the way that I'm perceiving and thinking about this situation that's the problem, because there's a gift in everything. If I can have a gift from being a suicidal alcoholic, there is a gift in everything, you know? So I always remind myself it's my perspective and the thinking that needs to be changed. So I catch it by catching the emotion and then tying it back to what is the thought that caused that emotion, and let me help think a little bit of a better thought to be able to relax that. So it could be like, oh, something financially that I was expecting didn't come through, and that's disappointing, and then pay the bills and all of that. Well, I can remind myself, like, you know, if it's not this is something Jack Canfield teaches. If it's not going to be this that I was expecting, there must be something better. The universe sets us up to succeed. Even though I can't see the possibility right now, I'm open to that. So, you know, it's like choosing a better thought that just relaxes you, because you can feel in your body going from like, oh my gosh, this isn't working, to maybe there's a possibility you move from contraction to expansion. And that's how I use my emotions to get me through to those better thinking, better thoughts to think. Like that. Does that seem clear?
It does. It does.
Okay.
And I love that expansion piece too. A whole contraction, we're in judgment, we're in conclusion, we can't see anything else beyond whatever's running through on that tape. And that expansion is opening us up to the deeper wisdom that our body has for us, that source, God, whatever term you use, that higher power. Yeah, that's beautiful, and it's all linked. You know, we're not just these physical bodies. We've got the emotions and the mental and the spiritual piece. It's all part of it. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. Well, so you know, the 3x3. When you started doing the meditations, how long did it take where you really started to see visible results? You said you lost. Did you say 10 pounds in 7 days, or 7 pounds in 10 days?
7 pounds in 10 days, yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
And that was from this practice?
Yep. Yep. And I'll tell you exactly how I did it, because to answer your question at first, like how long does it take to have results? From when I started, when I was shaking, sweating, couldn't even sit still in meditating, until I had my first experience in higher consciousness, that was 8 weeks. So in 8 weeks, it was like really a total transformation. So that was amazing. Now, when I had that experience and I learned, okay, the inside needs to come first, the way I'm thinking about it needs to come first, and then my body or whatever I want to transform will match, you know, and this is after I had done some of the work in the addiction recovery program, and I was ready to deal with the eating habits and what was going on. So It was a little bit of trial and error, because at first my thought was, okay, I'm going to sit in 3x3 and I'm going to picture that I love eating salads without dressing and I never crave bread, you know, and like all this stuff. And I tried it. I really tried it for like 7 days, and I thought, this is not working. Like, I still just want to eat Oreos. Like, this is not working for me. So I decided, let me try a different tactic. And I was like, okay, what if, like, my body knows when it's hungry, and I often eat when I'm not hungry, but at the end of the day, the basis, when we're born, we know what hunger feels like, and we know that what it means. Like, our bodies are calling to be fed, and we provide the nourishment. So I thought, what if, when the cells in my body are indicating that they are truly hungry and ready to eat, what if they are actually calling for something? What if they know what they're hungry for? And I said, I wonder if there's like a blueprint that I was born with for my ultimate body health. But the same way that an architect can draw a blueprint for a building, the builders might not listen to the blueprint, but the blueprint is still there, right? So maybe I wasn't tuned into it or listening to it, but that doesn't mean it's not there. You know, it's there, it's just dormant or sealed away, and I haven't been in touch with it. Mm-hmm. So I opened myself in the 3x3s, just say, like, I'm open to hearing whatever my body wants to eat, like, just for the 3 meals today, just for today, like, I'm open to playing with this. I'm curious to see what it will feel like or what it will be like when my body is telling me what it wants to eat. And so it took, I would say, it took 7 days of me doing that and just cultivating the openness in that relationship, another 7 days of playing with it at mealtime. So I would visualize during my 3x3s that I would get a calling or a knowing from my body. And then when I would go out to eat or, you know, kind of open the fridge or the pantry, I would take a breath or two and just say, okay, body, indicate to me what to eat. And what was interesting was that I'm a visual, I get my insights kind of visually. Some people hear a voice or have a feeling or an instinct. For me, it's visual. So when I would look at a menu, what my body was calling for would like light up in kind of, it would either have sparkles around it or have like a 3D quality to the choice. Yeah. So yeah, and so that's how I would choose to eat. And once I started doing that, I started walking around feeling, I hadn't lost a pound yet, but this is like 2 weeks into it. I hadn't lost a pound yet, but I could tell I was thinking differently. And I would be walking around, you know, shopping or running errands, and normally I would think, oh my gosh, I wish I had her body. She probably eats nothing. She probably just eats vegetables all day. Like, oh, I'll never have her body. Like, that was how I used to think. And I was walking around before I had even lost a pound, but I was thinking differently and eating differently, you know, just starting to. And I started realizing that I was looking at people that had the body that I wanted, and I was like, I look like her. She has my body. We could be twins. You know, like, I felt like I was in that space before my body came to match it. Now, when that mindset shifted, that's when the weight just dropped. And when I put 7 pounds in 10 days, when I wrote that in my book, my editor was like, that can't be right. You need to take that out of there. That's not realistic. And I was like, it is, though. That's exactly what happened to me. Because once the mindset gets right, and I lowered all of my resistance, and I was just totally open to honoring the call of what, you know, my body was wanting to eat and the nutrients to provide, it took no time at all for that body blueprint to just take over and to release everything my body no longer needed. And I would wake up in the morning and I would just know, I lost another pound. I just know I did. And I would never encourage people to weigh themselves every day, but I was kind of weighing myself every day because I wasn't curious about it. I wasn't, you know, kind of half closing my eyes like, what if I did? I was like, I just know it. I know it. It was just obvious to me that that was happening. And so that's, you know, how it worked for me. And I have different ways that I handle cravings and all of those sorts of things. So we can kind of, you know, I'm happy to answer any questions. But that was how I started it and how that first breakthrough came through for me.
I love it. I love it. It was internally, and then the outside became the out picturing of it. Your body took you to exactly what you needed. And I'm more of a kinesthetic person with my body. I do muscle testing. Or put it in front of my solar plexus. I can tell if I'm leaning towards it, yes, in a way. And I've heard too that you can look at the menu, and whatever your eye lands on, even if maybe you're not a visual person, if you open yourself up to the possibility that your body does know what you need, then that can make itself known just looking at that menu. Like, what's that thing that pops out, you know? That's so great. Well, the emotional, I did have somebody that posed a question, like, how have you ever had the experience where you are you're eating something, and or did you you're eating something, you know that you don't need it anymore, that you're totally eating from emotions, and yet you keep eating anyway? Like, is there a trick that you have or something that you use to stop, to shift that?
Yes, and this is how I interrupt cravings, and this is how, because the mindset needs to come first, and if you focus just on the work of the mindset and not worry about what you're eating just for the first 7 or 14 days, and remind yourself, 7 or 14 days ago, you were probably doing the same thing that's going on now, probably even longer than that. So if another 7 or 14 days goes by, it's okay, it's okay. And so the way that I handled cravings when I was having horrific cravings, and like, because when we're having cravings, it's almost, when I would have wine cravings or sugar cravings, I would have a craving for alcohol, and I wouldn't even remember opening a bottle of wine, and suddenly it's like almost empty. Like I didn't even have awareness of it. It just took me over. Like I became a zombie. Same thing with like a bag of potato chips or a bag of cookies. It was like, how is that even empty? I don't even remember opening it. It just takes you over. So the first step is having awareness that that monster is awake inside of you, right?
Yeah.
Because you know what it feels like to have that urge, and so you've got a split second to be able to have awareness as you go into it. So it's like just having awareness of, okay, I'm having a heavy alcohol craving, or I'm having a heavy sugar craving. That's what's going on with me right now. My process was I would go and drink a big glass of water, like a big glass of water, and let myself take that big glass of water and then have 3 deep breaths and ask myself, can I wait 7 more minutes or 3 more minutes, like an odd number? Can I wait 3 more minutes to give into this craving? And then I would say, you know what, I can wait 3 minutes. I'm going to go check the mail or send a message to somebody or call a friend or whatever, and do like a neutral distraction exercise.
Right.
So, take a walk around the block, because that's where the pattern interrupt comes. When you have a series of, and I'm not a brain scientist, so somebody listening in may, but this is just how I see it visually to help me understand. It's
Right.
like A goes to B goes to C. It's like craving leads to overeating leads to regret. So when I can get from interrupting that craving and before I give into it, so even if that 7 minutes goes by, I've checked the mail, I've called people, I'm a crazy person, and I end up eating those cookies anyway, I'm actually better off than if I had just been a zombie to it, because there was awareness first, and I interrupted that brain pattern. So I'm no longer on that same brain pattern that I was previously. And so the first 7 or 14 days may look something like that. It may look like, oh, I'm a failure because I gave into it anyway. But if you did the pattern interrupt, you're actually starting to work that muscle. And the more that you work that muscle and get that new neural pathway built, the cravings will fade to the side. Now, anybody obviously dealing with addiction or heavy, anything more than just kind of mild struggling with food, I would obviously say go to an addiction recovery program, get the support that you need. But this is the way that is effective for me handling, the cravings that I was handling.
I love that. And the person that posed this question to me, they obviously were in the awareness stage, because they could see themselves continue to eat whatever it was they were eating, and they're like, I don't want to be eating this. So, to take that drink of water, to go check the mail, to the pattern and interrupt, that's brilliant. And not to beat yourself up if, you still go and you have whatever it was you were craving, right? Like, it's okay. And every time you do it again, it gets stronger and stronger until it's just not there anymore.
Exactly. That is how it worked for me, for sure.
I am such a proponent of getting rid of the judgment on it. Like, how can I play with this today? And see what's possible,
I love it. Yep.
Well, would you want to guide us through a 3x3 meditation so that we can feel into that and be able to use this for ourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we can do something. We can do something kind of simple it might just kind of open something inside of ourselves, because different people may be at different levels with meditation or having experience with this stuff. So if you've never meditated before or haven't in a long time and have a lot of negative thoughts or cravings, you may start out with something more simple than diving right into this kind of, weight loss body blueprint type of thing. You want to, because when you start planting positive thoughts, if the garden is full of weeds, you want to be able to get the garden weeded because otherwise the weeds will just choke out the roses that you're planting. Those positive thoughts will just be eaten alive and choked out by the negative. So this will be just something, we'll go and we'll take 3 minutes now, and it'll just be something to kind of weed the garden so that when you're planting those positive thoughts, they'll take better. So
beautiful.
And so Darlene, if you'd like to participate, or anybody listening in, if you need to adjust the way that you're sitting or shake your body out or anything, just take a moment and do that right now. And then as you settle in, just let yourself find a place of feeling alert, but feeling relaxed in your body. Nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to do, but just gently relaxing in this moment right now. And just notice any tension that you may be holding in your muscles. It's just not existing in this space. You just feel it melting right out of your body. And bring your focus gently on your breathing right now. No need to speed it up or slow it down, but just becoming aware of that process, that little miracle of breathing. And I invite you to become curious. What is the feeling that you would most like to have regarding your body? Is it, I just want to feel comfortable and free and flexible in my own skin? Or is it, I just want to feel grounded and free of cravings? Or whatever it is, just kind of get a little bit of a beat on the way that you most want to be feeling when you think about your body. And use your breath. Right now we're going to use our breath to bring that feeling and anchor it into our cells. So let yourself take a deep breath in now. And as that air comes into your body, imagine that it's bringing with it the essence of what you most want to be feeling. And so it's bringing in that peace, that freedom, that comfortability in your own skin. It's bringing that feeling and anchoring it into and saturating every cell of your body as it comes in. And let yourself breathe normally, but each breath is bringing in that essence and letting it easily and thoroughly infiltrate every single cell of your body, the cells of your brain, just infiltrating, saturating, and anchoring in that feeling to every dimension of your being. And let yourself just do another breath or two just like that. Just breathing in, anchoring in that feeling, just knowing that it's being fully absorbed into the knowledge and wisdom of your body's cells. And then when you're ready, let your body take one last deep breath in just like that. Having just a final infiltrating, anchoring moment where you're just knowing and feeling that you're embodying that emotional place inside. And when you're ready, you can go ahead and just release it and then return your attention into the room that you're in right now.
That was beautiful and yummy. I loved that. I feel so relaxed right now.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, it's simple, but that helps kind of weed the garden and, brings up the possibility. And then there's a million other places that you could take it with intense visualizations for what you want to create. But that's a really good way to just kind of get yourself into it, become curious and open about it.
Yeah, and I was breathing in the emotions, which felt really cool. Just saturating every cell with those emotions. Yeah, it's awesome. Well, I know that you have been so, so generous, and you have provided a free gift for the Empowered Embodiment Revolution listeners. And I'd love for you just to talk about what that is, because I know that people are going to want to get more of you and dive into what you have to offer. And this is something that you've just been so generous to provide to everyone. And I don't want to explain it. I'm going to let you explain it. There's a link that's below the video here that people can go and get that. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, well, it's just kind of a starting point to help people. It's guided 3-minute meditation audio. So listening to that and just kind of getting into that place. It's funny because I don't listen to guided meditations because when I first started, I never listened to them. But I know that it is helpful for other people to be able to be guided through it and to listen to it. So the free gift is just a jump start. It's got some beautiful music, and it's just me guiding through just a 3-minute kind of weed the garden relaxation audio that people can bring with them.
Awesome. And do you have anything else that's coming up that anyone would want to know about in your world? What you've got what you're offering? Any workshops or just share what's going on.
It's a great question. I've been doing a little bit of traveling and speaking, and so I usually have that stuff kind of updated on my website, which is really exciting. And I just started launching. I've been coaching for a couple of years now, and so I coach individuals. I actually coach businesses in de-stress and productivity and individuals. Everything from relationships to weight loss to body healing and all of those things. And I've just launched, just a couple months ago, a 3x3 coaching certification program, which is amazing. So I'm taking people who want to coach and learn this modality from the inside and bring it into their practice, whether it's business or whether it's individual. So that's what's really kind of getting me excited and lighting me up right now, is being able to bring this like a train the trainer. Like, I'm helping other coaches bring this into their modalities too. So it's really exciting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the more that you can support everyone, and the ones that are out there that can use this modality, the practitioners, absolutely. So is that information on your website? Can they go and check all that out on your website?
Yeah, everything's right on the website. And I also have other free stuff. Like, I have a whole ton of videos, because I make videos for my newsletter every couple of weeks. So there's free videos on there. And then I also have a video course. And that's a product that I sell, but it's basically everything that I know in video format, so people can have their transformations.
How much Dina do you want? Right there, you go.
Yeah, exactly. So, but there's a ton of free stuff too, and you can kind of feel your way into it. But yeah, everything is right there on one website. I put everything in one place.
Love it. Well, I can't believe it's almost time to wrap up here. I would just love to thank you. I'm going to click over. I'm learning all this technology. It's so much fun. I want to thank you so, so much for being here, for sharing your wisdom, for your gifts. I want to thank everybody who's listening in for taking the time for you to choose a new way of being in your body. And there's so much more to come with this series, so please keep tuning in. And Dina, thank you so much for everything that you do and for sharing with us today. Just so appreciate it.
I'm grateful to be invited and to share this space with you, Darlene, and I love everything that you're doing for listeners. I think it's hugely valuable, and I'm just honored to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to click you back on one more time. Say bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.